Change is a constant. As the saying goes, the only thing that doesn't change is change itself. This couldn't be more true for the space industry. Just a few decades ago, the United States and Russia were the unrivaled leaders in space exploration. Fast forward to today, and the landscape has dramatically shifted. Countries that were barely in the picture, like China and India, are now making huge strides, advancing so rapidly that they're poised to surpass the traditional space powers. Among these emerging space nations, China's progress is particularly posing a significant challenge to U.S. dominance in space. Their latest achievements have pushed this competition even further. We're going to look into what China has done recently and why it's important for the space race in today's video. Before we delve in, make sure to subscribe to our channel for future updates about the space industry, particularly SpaceX's groundbreaking achievements. Recently, a Chinese rocket company made news with a significant achievement in their efforts to develop a reusable rocket. This company, which is a part of China's state-owned defense and space industry, successfully carried out a short launch and landing test. The test involved a reusable technology test rocket that lifted off from a pad at their test facilities on January 26. It hovered in the air for 9 seconds before making its way back to the launch area, with the entire flight lasting 22 seconds. This test was run by X-Space, a company that falls under a larger Chinese state-owned defense and space contractor. While this parent company plays a crucial role in China's state space industry, X-Space is working to create its own launch services. You know what this means, right? They're coming after SpaceX. Many commercial space companies in China are targeting to overtake SpaceX, and among these companies, Landspace has been the most successful one yet. Landspace plans to debut its reusable rocket, Zhuke-3, in 2025, aiming to support China's 13,000 satellite broadband mega-constellation, competing directly with SpaceX's Starlink network. The Zhuke-3 rocket, featuring a stainless steel structure and powered by methane and liquid oxygen, represents China's push towards high transport capacity. Similarly, Space Pioneer is developing the Tianlong-3 rocket, targeting a test launch in 2024. Comparable to SpaceX's Falcon 9, Tianlong-3 is designed for reusability with a payload capacity aimed at supporting China's low Earth orbit communications mega-constellation. This initiative reflects China's effort to establish a significant presence in the commercial space launch market, offering a new launch capacity second only to China's Long March 5B rocket. China's commercial aerospace industry has witnessed strong growth since the government allowed private capital in civil aviation infrastructure in 2014. This growth is part of China's broader aim to close the gap with global space powers and assert itself as a major player in the space economy. China has more than 78 commercial space companies, with many focusing on satellite manufacturing and launch services. Yes, you heard that right. 78 companies in China. It's an impressive figure that hints at China's potential dominance in space within a few decades, and most of these companies are developing technologies to compete with SpaceX, ranging from reusable rockets to rapid satellite deployment services. These developments are supported by government contracts and venture capital. Moreover, China is gearing up to compete with SpaceX's Starlink through the development of its own constellation of very low Earth orbit satellites. The question of whether Chinese companies can overtake SpaceX's launch services and satellite constellation is complex. SpaceX's achievements set a high bar in the space industry, marked by a significant increase in launch numbers year after year. In 2022, SpaceX achieved 61 launches, and in 2023, the number increased dramatically to 96 launches, accounting for 43% of all launches worldwide. This made SpaceX the single entity with the most launches, surpassing even entire countries like China, which had 67 launches in 2023 across various rocket families and configurations. SpaceX aims to push its boundaries further in 2024, targeting an unprecedented 144 missions. The majority of SpaceX's launches in 2023 were dedicated to expanding the Starlink satellite internet mega-constellation, which consists of about 5,230 operational spacecraft. SpaceX has permission for a total deployment of 12,000 Starlink satellites in low Earth orbit and has applied for approval to add another 30,000 satellites. This expansion is crucial for enhancing global internet coverage and making the Starlink project profitable. SpaceX's Starship, the world's largest, heaviest, and most powerful rocket, also made headlines with its debut. The first test flight of Starship in April 2023 was a significant step, although it encountered serious issues shortly after liftoff. The mission aimed to test the vehicle's upper stage capabilities around Earth, targeting a splashdown near Hawaii. Unfortunately, the vehicle suffered several problems, including a failure to separate the two stages, leading to SpaceX intentionally destroying the vehicle merely 4 minutes into the flight to ensure safety. Despite these setbacks, SpaceX made progress with Starship's second test flight later in the year. This attempt saw improvements, with the Super Heavy booster's 33 Raptor engines firing as planned and successfully separating from the upper stage. However, this mission too ended prematurely, with the upper stage being destroyed about 8 minutes into flight. SpaceX is already preparing for the next Starship test flight, having test-fired the engines of its latest prototype. This upcoming test flight is expected to take place in February, with the exact timing dependent on SpaceX completing the necessary preparations and receiving an updated Federal Aviation Administration launch license. The third flight of Starship, involving Ship 28, is particularly significant as it may include an attempt at demonstrating key technologies for lunar and interplanetary missions. SpaceX has conducted static fire tests of both the Super Heavy booster and the Starship upper stage intended for this launch. One of the objectives for this flight is to demonstrate propellant transfer capabilities through NASA's Tipping Point Technology program, which involves transferring cryogenic propellant from a header tank within Starship to its main tank, a precursor to transferring propellant between starships in orbit. The eventual goal for Starship includes ferrying astronauts to the Moon and Mars, with NASA selecting it for the Artemis 3 and 4 missions slated for the mid to late 2026. Therefore, the success of this third test flight is critical not only for advancing SpaceX's immediate technological capabilities, but also for maintaining its competitive position against the rising challenge from Chinese companies in the space sector. Numerous Chinese firms are directly competing with SpaceX in areas like satellite launches, crewed space missions, and interplanetary exploration. The Chinese government's ambitious space goals to establish China as the leading space power by 2045. Given this context, if the U.S. government does not adjust its approach by loosening regulations and facilitating a more favorable environment for companies like SpaceX, there's a risk that China will overtake the U.S. in the space sector. And that's all for today's update. If you enjoyed watching and found it useful, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.